Let me give you $1,000,000, but if I give you this $1,000,000, you're gonna die in 5 days. Do you still want the $1,000,000?
No, no.
I can teach you how to dance in 24 hours.
Right.
What that 24 hours consisted of was 60 days of practice every 24 minutes. So 24 minutes every day for 60 days. I think some of the challenges that we have is, what is happiness? You may find happiness in the right car, the right person, the right house. I may find happiness in my best food, or a trip that I'm planning, or that I'm experiencing or taking, or a dance that is just incredible. There's pleasure, temporary. I think happiness is an ongoing choice that we choose if we want to be happy or not. So there are things that can make us happy, but I think happiness is an inside job.
This inside job. But my question is, in today's world, where we compare our lives to carefully curated online personas, how can we foster genuine happiness?
Well, part of the challenge is we curate those lives, don't we? And so I guess the first question is, how much of that is curated by the ego? And how much is that created by the facts that are there? You need to humble the ego, I think, in order to not to have this pompous display of social media. Social media has a tendency to want us to inflate our ego, right or wrongly. I mean, the effects is we're trying to put out a persona, carefully curated.
Best of us, the best of us.
Of course. Carefully curated persona, as you pointed out, of our being. A lot of times the camera goes off, lights go down, you're not happy anymore. A clear example of that is most comedians. Most comedians are not happy people. So they talk about their pain. They talk about the pains that they see. I think what we don't talk about as human beings, and most of us don't talk about, is the unhappiness that we're feeling. So the question is, how do you curate happiness, or how do you have happiness in a world that's unhappy?
Don't you think dreaming too much leads us to unhappiness?
Well, once again, I think it goes back to, is it realistic? Is the dream realistic? For example, you could say, I want to fly. Now, you're not a bird. So you probably will never be able to fly. But if you say, I have a dream of flying one day, then you can look at, okay, what tools, what resources are available to help me achieve what my goal is. The goal is to fly, right? So the expectation is being measured by, what do I have to do to do that? So for an example, again, a lot of times people dream about things, but they're not willing to put in the effort to achieve the dream. I have this friend who dreamed that he wanted to dance, but he was not willing to put in the effort to learn how to dance. So is that dream realistic if you don't put in the effort? Is that dream realistic if you don't want to capitalize on the resources that you have available to you in order to acquire that dream? So another example, because we're talking about the dance world, I have two other friends who their dream was to learn how to dance. So they come and they ask me, Myra, I want to learn how to dance. I say, okay, I can teach you how to dance in 24 hours. What that 24 hours consisted of was 60 days of practice every 24 minutes. So 24 minutes every day for 60 days. And this was based on Josh Kaufman's book on how to learn anything. And in his book, he says that the first thing you need to do is to look at that dream, and is it realistic? Is it even practical? I think learning how to dance is very practical. I think learning how to play the guitar is very practical. I think learning how to fly is practical. you wanting to fly may not be practical if you're talking about not wanting to put in effort and the energy to experience through practice what it is that you're trying to accomplish. For your listeners, let's talk about, I want to go from New York to Paris, okay? My dream is to go to Paris from New York. So now what happens, most people, is they don't seek clarity. You can go from New York to Paris. You could swim.
Yes.
You can fly an airplane.
Yes.
You could take a boat.
Right.
You could take a submarine.
Yes.
So there's various ways that you can do it. Would you agree?
Yes.
So what happens a lot of times is we don't sit there and identify what is going to be the best method to do this. Because if you have no resources, then some of those things get thrown out right away.
Exactly.
You cannot fly. You don't have the resources to fly. Maybe you can take a boat. If you have the resources to obtain a boat or a boat ticket, maybe you can take a boat. You can swim, but swimming is not practical, right? I don't know anyone who's been able to swim from New York to Paris. I'm not saying it hasn't happened. I'm just saying I don't know anyone who's done that so far. So then consequently, what happens is you have to look at it, what is realistic? It's not realistic for me to get a submarine. It's not realistic for me to swim. So the realistic things is a boat or I can fly. Those become the more realistic approaches. So now, what do I have to do to acquire the resources in order to get a boat or purchase a boat ticket, or to get a plane or purchase a plane ticket? So to obtain those resources usually is going to require time, and in some cases, most cases, money.
Yes.
So now how do I acquire time and money to do those things, right? And this becomes a stumbling block for most people, because most people don't want to put in the time or dedicate the resources in order to do that, unless the desire is strong. So one of the things we talk about in my dance program is the why. Why are you doing this? So the question in this example is, why are you going to Paris? The why is the desire. The why is the motivator. The dream is to go to Paris. The happiness is going to be if I get to Paris. So, but there's other steps I have to take along the way. And that's usually controlled by desire, by my ego.
Yes.
What is my ego willing to do? We all know people who've accomplished amazing things who may or may not have the resources. So you look and see what was the main thing that they had. They had a why they want to accomplish it. But even more importantly, they had the desire. They were willing to subjugate the ego. They were willing to suppress any of this egotistical feeling. And they were willing to do whatever it took in terms of time or money. Time is usually what most of us have.
Yes.
The time issue becomes, okay, how quickly do you want it? What is your desire to want it? If you have a deadline, I want to be in Paris by February the 15th, that kind of helps you put in perspective, even more so, what are the resources I need? How can I accumulate those resources? So going back to Josh Kaufman's book, how anyone can learn anything in 24 hours, what he says is look at what it is that you want to accomplish, your dream. Break it down to the smallest pieces, incremental pieces. What are the resources that I need? What do I have to do? So in his particular case, he wanted to learn how to play the ukulele. So what was the first thing that he had to do? He had to buy a ukulele. That's the first resource that he needed, right? The second resource that he needed is he needed to buy ukulele music. Right? And then the third resource he needed to do is he needed to learn how to read music so that he could play the ukulele. So this was breaking down each step of the way. And then the biggest chunk became to practice reading music to learn how to play the ukulele. And this is where most of us fall short. The practice part of it. But practice is everything. Everything is a choice, but practice is everything. And so when we have this dream, the dream becomes, what do I have to acquire, practice, in order to make this dream come true? It is when the dream comes true that we experience happiness, right? But I think most people who are in a happy state, that is what I called earlier, internal happiness, inside job, the process is happy. The process is making them happy. It may not be the end, what we call the journey is making them happy. It may not be the destination.
Right.
So the happiness is coming about that, wow, I'm able to read this music. Wow, I'm able to practice some of this music. Wow, I'm actually able to play some of this music. The happiness may also be when I can show my friends, hey, I can play this music, right?
Yes.
Because now the ego starts to come into play.
Right.
Hopefully it is this desire that you had to learn to play the ukulele that will bring happiness into your life, into the future. So when someone comes over and you want to make them jovial, or you want to up your own mood, you play the ukulele, right?
Right.
So where we fall short, we, the human race, fall short is in understanding what incremental steps do we actually need
Right.
in order to accomplish the dream. The happiness comes because we don't really thoroughly analyze it, so we abandon the dream. And that causes us to not be happy because we're not going to achieve whatever it is the desire is. So that's the way I say is, how realistic is what you're desiring or your dream? How realistic is your dream? In terms of time, money, resources, the things that you're willing to do in order to accomplish that dream. But now the question is, okay, how dedicated are we to this?
Yes.
The hardest challenge with any dream is to eliminate the distractions. And my feeling is the universe will test you on how committed are you to this dream.
So coming back to happiness, that we need dream for being happy. Without dream, we can't be happy. Sometimes we come back without achieving the dream. Sometimes we achieve the dream and then we feel frustrated once again and dreaming for something else. So what actually makes us happy?
I can only speak for me and what I see, and that is to be grateful and gratitude.
Correct.
I mean, we can say that our dream is to go to New York, to Paris, but we can say that the way I want to go is I want to go through Maine, then I want to go to Iceland, then I want to go to Greenland, then I want to go to Norway, and then I want to get to Paris. We still got to Paris, but we did it a different way, right?
Right.
The other way to say is I want to go from New York to Paris, but I want to fly straight. Now, if the Concorde was available, we could do that in 2 hours, 2.5 hours, but the Concorde not being available, it's going to take us 4.5 to 5 hours to do that, right?
Right.
If we wanted to take a boat, the boat would take us, a steamliner would take us between 7 to 10 days to do that. So there's various ways we can do it, but just to be grateful that I'm going to do this, that I have the opportunity to do this, that I've either set aside the resources and able to accomplish this dream. My dream was to go to Paris, or I'm actually embarking on that dream. And that's, to me, comes down to gratitude, being grateful. Let me speak to my happiness. My happiness begins when I wake up. My happiness is I have another day to learn. I have another day to interact with my friends and people that I love. I have running water less than 2 meters away from me. I have a toilet less than 2.5 meters, 3 meters away from me. There's a lot of people, billions of people, who don't have that, let alone have the dream of, how can I go to New York, to Paris? Happiness is based on expectation. The expectation was you wanted this to fulfill some level of happiness for you. And it probably did temporarily.
Temporarily.
Right? That's pleasure.
This pleasure, not happiness.
Not happiness. Yeah. I think things that fulfill you temporarily, goals or dreams that you have, I want this car, I want this house, I want this certain person in my life, those become temporary because all of that will change at some point. Right. The mere fact that you're alive means that you're going to die.
Yes.
That in itself is a change.
Yes.
So one of the things I try to remind myself is that everything is a choice.
Yeah.
And everything will change.
Right.
And everything is practice.
So is there any definition of happiness? What makes me happy?
Well, the definition changes on the people, right?
Yes.
So I can say, let me give you $1 million. But if I give you this $1 million, you're going to die in 5 days. Do you still want the $1 million?
No.
So the money's not going to make you happy, right?
Right. Exactly.
So the question becomes, does money make you happy? I don't think so. I think money can solve problems.
Yeah.
I think most problems are caused by money.
Yes.
But I don't think necessarily that money is going to make you happy. A lot of people think if I have a certain amount of money in my life, I will be happy.
Right.
So your happiness and your measurement for happiness is going to be different than my measurement for happiness. My measurement for happiness is I hope that I can live to be 99 years old, 100 years old.
Right.
If I can do that in good health, I think I will be happy.
Yes.
Your measurement may be I need to acquire X number of dollars.
Right.
If I can do that, I think I will be happy. So I think, and all of us have different perspectives on what's going to make us happy. Unfortunately, I think social media, we talked about that influence a little earlier.
Yes.
A lot of times we think that money is going to make us happy. But I know a lot of people who have a lot of money and they are not happy. And they will tell you they are not happy. But these are people who could go out in a minute and acquire anything, including the yacht to take you from New York to Paris. And so I have to believe that happiness is something that comes from the internal state of mind, that comes from your perspective on gratefulness, gratitude.
Gratitude.
Yeah.
But this gratitude can bring contentment in us and we won't dream anymore.
Well, I'm not saying that gratitude towards the dreams. I think gratitude is about the process in the dream. So go back to our Josh Kaufman's ukulele, right? His gratitude was the fact that he had the resources to buy a ukulele. He had the resources to buy the sheet music so he could learn music. Gratitude was in the fact that he was playing it. But what he had to sacrifice was time in order to practice learning how to play it. So gratefulness is the fact that he could, in the 24-hour clock, carve out some time in order to do that, right? And now that he's grateful, I mean, based on watching him play, that he's really glad, gratitude, gratefulness, that he was able to do those things, had the means at which to do those things, and he was able to accomplish those things. I don't think gratitude is a replacement for dreams. I don't think dreams is a replacement for gratitude. I look at dreams as plans.
Plans, yes.
That's how I perceive dreams.
Yes.
So we can dream very unrealistic things.
Yes.
I want to go to the moon.